Back in 2022, I made this video ranking all the worlds in Donkey Kong 64. Each one offers a unique design and character, with some flaws here and there, so let's spend some time with each one individually. Moving on from one of my favorite worlds to, well, one of my least favorites. Crystal Caves leaves me really conflicted, and my opinion of it has changed over time. When I made this tier list ranking all the worlds, I originally put Gloomy Galleon at the very bottom. I'm at a place now where Crystal Caves might actually be far worse. If you haven't already, take a look at my review for Gloomy Galleon. I don't love the world, but it's kind of won me over after all these years. But Crystal Caves? Yeah, I still hate it. And I'm starting to hate it the most. Never thought I'd see the day. But like I said, it leaves me feeling conflicted because there are aspects about this world that I like and see working. But man, okay, enough rambling on. Let's really pick this thing apart. The theme of this world is right there in the name. A cave with crystals. Great, that's pretty new. I've always appreciated that this world is also right off a DK Isle. It feels like it's always been a part of home base and is being invaded by Kremlings, versus the worlds that are located on enemy territory. For the longest time, we've all been wanting to know what's behind that giant boulder. With no way to break it open, I think we all start to forget about it over time. But the aha moment is very rewarding when the world is finally unlocked. The cave is far more relaxing in comparison to some of the other worlds. Something about these sparkling blue crystals that reminds me of the cave zone in Frogger. This and the river that cuts through gives off the illusion of calm and peacefulness. Which is funny because 30 seconds into the world and the ceiling is collapsing. So let's talk about the giant kosha in the room. This giant kosha. I said it before and I'll say it again. I'm not against this idea of a large enemy crashing down the ceiling. I think it's a unique way to break up the world's rather quiet theme. It holds a similar forthcoming doom like the moon in Majora's Mask, or, I don't know, basic time-based events. I mean, it's not like it's difficult to avoid the falling spikes. 9 times out of 10, you can simply walk forward and never get hit. I'm more frustrated by how frequently these things come falling down. If the timing was cut in half, I'd have no problem. Well, that's not entirely true. There's been a few times when I'm simply walking over a ledge and get knocked right off. This world is full of tall ledges, making it a giant pain in the butt to regroup and get back to where you were. And regrouping is not as simple as walking back to where you were. The layout of this world is so confusing. It's hard to see what's on top of these ledges. The cave is so dark, you can only see so far out. Warp paths are difficult to find, so you're kinda stuck walking everywhere. There are no creative directions built into the world to guide the players from one location to the other. Heck, there's very few memorable landmarks. This is just a recipe for disaster. Walking around the world should be relatively easy. No, not like Mario 64 where walking around is supposed to be kinda difficult. But you get what I mean. Navigating any world should feel like your hometown. After a lap or two, you just know where everything is located. And if you get knocked on your butt, it's easy to get right back where you were. This rant was a real rabbit hole away from the main issue, the big kosha. Like I said, I like the threat of danger, but there's gotta be a better way to design this. Maybe the Kongs should simply not hurtle themselves off the ledge when taking damage. Maybe there could be more crystals sticking out of the walls and ground for better coverage. I would even take a doomsday clock in the corner counting down, and when time's up, the ceiling comes crumbling down and the player hits a game over. Really, anything would be better than this. It's so close to being a mini-boss fight as well. It just shouldn't interrupt the players from their adventure too severely. So with that out of the way, let's look into more of the world's design. The sparkling crystals are great, but I love seeing even more of the design with the ice castle, walls of breakable ice, these cabins, slippery ice flooring, igloos, and waterfall. But the world as a whole feels really hollow. Jungle Japes doesn't even feel this empty. It feels like Rare wanted to make this a winter world, but couldn't think of how to tie it into Donkey Kong. I don't know. There's just very little going on in this world. It feels like it was put together in an hour. And there's practically no new enemies in this world. The giant kosha doesn't really count, but there's this ice tomato guy with the puzzle, and then the fireball enemies in the igloo. That's about it. Not saying every world needs to include a fresh pack of brand new enemies, but come on. Not one crystal-like baddie? No ice kremling? Just back to basics. They even reused the beetle race and armadillo boss fight. Oh, sheesh. Do you see what I mean about Crystal Caves? There's just very little going on for it. Not only is it forgettable, it's not all that fun to play through. I just know they could have given it a little more love. Even a handful of the golden bananas in this world are on new levels of frustration. Like I mentioned earlier, the rematch race against the beetle was so painful. So painful, it's deserving of being labeled as one of the worst golden bananas in the game. Check out this video. The golden banana challenges in the cabins in Igloo aren't all that pretty either. I hate to say that some of them are forgettable, but there's some truth to that. Not sure if it's because it's so late in the game or because some of these challenges are so straightforward. Heck, it might be because I really only remember the few that are so impossibly difficult. These bananas are tough to please the crowd. But they can't be all that bad. Diddy Kong has this painstakingly brutal timed event challenge in the cabins, and Donkey Kong has this insane moving maze challenge in the Igloo. More on that in another video. But this world offers new abilities to the Kongs that opens the door to other new, fun challenges. Tiny Kong gets her own special warp pad, which takes the player right to that giant kosha. Chunky Kong gets Gorilla Gone, essentially the invisible ability that Donkey Kong has. And Lanky Kong, while I'm a little bitter about the timing, gets the Orang Sprint ability. These new abilities are fun, I can't deny that. And while the cabins have me the most butthurt, I love that the Get Out voice makes a reappearance. Not quite as spooky of an environment as the tombs in Angry Aztec, and it probably would have been an appropriate fit for Creepy Castle, but the scary voice is certainly welcome. Going back to upgrades, we finally get another good upgrade from Candy Kong. Receiving that third melon life is a real game changer, and it's needed for a world like this, what with the falling debris taking away your life. This upgrade is practically required for the golden banana waiting for Donkey Kong in the Igloo. I talk about it more in another video, but the spikes on that rotating maze knock out an entire life melon. Absolutely devastating. You know, for a world I've come to completely despise, I feel like my list of hates is awfully low. It was easy to hate on Gloomy Galleon, and maybe that's because there's a full list of what to change, what I actually liked, different aspects that were frustrating, and some other fourth thing. But Crystal Caves kinda just leaves one foul taste in my mouth. Just change the layout. Navigating this world is awful, but it's not a size issue. We just came out of Fungi Forest, a gigantic world that doesn't require a lot of brain power to find what you're looking for. Then there's Crystal Caves, a kind of medium-sized world that is a nightmare to move from point A to B. The big kosha can be problematic, sure, but at least the problem is temporary and provides a reward factor for finding it and taking it down once and for all. There are some awfully tough golden bananas in this world, no doubt, but I suppose the sixth world of a game should have the player roll up their sleeves every once in a while. Double C deserves a redesign. I propose the rooms be a tad smaller and split it up into 3 floors. The entrance to this world will be on the 2nd level. On the 1st floor, the lower level, I think there should be a river of lava. When exploring caves, my mind can't help but think about Minecraft. The number of times I've gone exploring in a cave and, whoa, whoops, that there is lava. Better watch my step. I think it would make for a unique twist to the world, something that the players aren't really expecting. Then there's the 3rd floor up top, where the giant kosha is stationed. I'm not entirely sure why Rare was fixated on only Tiny accessing it. Perhaps it was an excuse for her warp pad upgrade. I don't think it should matter who gets to defeat the kosha, but I do think it matters on how the floor is accessed. So the river cuts through pretty much the entirety of this world, and the waterfall kind of feels useless beyond decoration. I think it would be neat if the waterfall started on the top floor, the river cuts through the 2nd floor, and then another waterfall to the bottom floor. I think this is a better way to navigate the world. Players will become familiar with the direction of flowing water. The bottom floor can easily be accessed by any Kong. Just take the waterfall down, then warp pad back up for convenience. The top floor would only be accessible by Diddy Kong and his jetpack. When players make it to the top, they can activate the warp pad and take out the kosha. The cabins could be on one floor, the igloo on another, and the ice castle on another floor. This would make landmarks far easier to remember. The dangers of the ceiling falling become less intrusive without losing the doom effect. And gosh, it'll just be easier to see instead of constant dark abyss. A big problem I have with Crystal Caves is how often I need to rely on Diddy's jetpack just to get around. That eats up a ton of crystal coconuts. But they've got all the pieces, it's all about how you put them together. I think that's all I have to say about Crystal Caves. It's a tough one, and not in a fun way. If I were to alter my tier list of DK64 worlds, this and Gloomy Galleon are switching places. But enough out of me, what are your thoughts on this world? Do you enjoy it? Or do you hate it as much as I do? There's a lot of brutal golden bananas in this one, so which is the worst in your opinion? There's a lot to say about Crystal Caves, so leave your thoughts below in the comments. Until next time.